and sisters, my name is Kilmar García, and I want you to remember this. Remember that I am free, and I was able to be reunited with my family. This was a miracle. Thank you to God, and thank you to the community power. When I was detained, I remembered memories with my family, going to the park with them, going to the trampoline with my children. Those moments will continue to give me hope to continue in this fight. To all the families who have been separated, or to all the families who have been threatened with family separation, this administration has hit us hard. But I want to tell you guys something. God is with us, and God will never leave us. God will bring justice to all of the injustice that we are suffering. With our community by our side, and with our family by our side, love will trump. Never lose hope. You will once again see your family too. Regardless of what happens here today, in my ICE checking, promise me this. Promise me that you will continue to pray, continue to fight, resist, and love, not just for me, but for everybody. Continue to demand freedom.
Kilmar García was released from federal custody today, but then he was immediately taken back into custody by ICE.
Gotcha, bitch!
Say that today was an emotionally and physically draining day would be an understatement. I won't even go into why, but it was all put into perspective when I saw that Kilmar García, who I just saw reuniting with his fucking family yesterday, got redetained. Could you imagine being the person that is chosen to be made an example out of by the government? How unlucky. And I was thinking about how unlucky I felt today, just given my circumstances. I can't even, the cruelty of it all. What he must be going through, what his family must be going through, to send him to Uganda, potentially? For what?
I seriously cannot believe the words that are about to come out of my mouth right now. ICE has yet again detained Kilmar García. Yes, that Kilmar García, the one who months ago was wrongfully deported due to an administrative error in ICE's system. After months of judges ordering him back to the country, of judges ordering him to be released, he was finally able to spend the weekend with his family to seek some type of normalcy. But what happened this Monday morning? Oh, he followed the law and went to his immigration appointment where ICE detained him again. They are now trying to deport him to fucking Uganda, a place he is not from, he has never stepped foot in, a place where he doesn't speak the language. And let me say it again, the initial deportation was due to an error. Now, for some reason, they keep wanting to pick on this guy, and I think his case is going to be studied by legal experts for years and decades to come. But Uganda, the judge literally said, even if they do try to deport him to a third country where he's not from, that he has to have a 72-hour notice. Well, they broke the law again and detained him again. This is not policy. This is fucking punishment. This is retaliation, and it needs to stop.
Remember Kilmar García, the Maryland man who got wrongfully deported to El Salvador back in March? Yeah, that's him. They now want to deport him to Uganda. Listen to this. He just got released from a Tennessee jail on Friday, and within minutes, literally minutes of walking free, ICE informed him he was going to Uganda. First, they admitted they deported him by mistake, calling it an administrative error. He then spent months in El Salvador's most notorious prison, CCOP, for nothing. Second, the Supreme Court says bring his ass back. Third, they bring him back in June, slapping him with a fake human smuggling charge, and then lock him up for 2 months. We find out that shit is fake, and now here's where it really gets wild. They offered him a plea deal and told him if you plead guilty that they would send him to Costa Rica instead of back to El Salvador. And he said, fuck that, no, I'm innocent, so they got mad. And they set it up so that the second that he walked out of the Tennessee jail, boom, your ass is going to Uganda. Report to a Baltimore ICE office on Monday. Uganda, a country this man has no connection to. This is punishment for fighting back against the government's mistake. They messed up, they deport the wrong person, and got called out by the Supreme Court, and now they're like, well, you embarrassed us, so we're gonna make an example out of you. We're gonna send you to Africa, and by the way, the news from your story is gonna distract from the Epstein files. This isn't about one person anymore. The Trump administration just made deals with Honduras and Uganda to accept deportees who aren't even from their country. Now think about what that means. If they can send a U.S. citizen to Uganda, they can send anyone anywhere. Your neighbor, your coworker, your family, hell, motherfucking you. This is setting a precedent that if you fight back against the government, if you don't accept their mistakes, they'll make your life a living motherfucking hell and ship you to the most random place in the fucking world. Today it's Uganda. Tomorrow it could be any motherfucking where else.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joy Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. America has always branded itself as the land of justice, fairness, and second chances. But when you look closer, especially at how immigration is handled under MAGA policies, you see a darker reality. The story of Kilmar García exposes exactly that. A Salvadoran man wrongfully deported and brought back to the US, and now facing the outrageous possibility of being sent to Uganda, a country he has no connection to whatsoever. It's a story that feels so absurd, you'd think it was made up. But sadly, this is very real, and it shows how far MAGA's deportation machine is willing to go. Before we proceed, all credit goes to the creators of these videos. Let me roll a few more clips and I'll come back with more commentary.
Government really said, Kilmar García, if you don't plead guilty to human trafficking charges, these made-up human trafficking charges, because we got caught deporting you to El Salvador illegally, which we should have never done. We never gave you due process. You were here legally. You had court orders to be here legally, and we still deported you. And the courts said that we had to bring you back, so we brought you back. But instead of admitting that we're wrong, if you don't plead guilty to these human trafficking charges, then we're going to send you to Uganda. The same government that's covering up the Epstein files, a child sex trafficking ring, is telling Kilmar García, you need to plead guilty to these human trafficking charges. If you plead guilty, we're still going to send you to Costa Rica. We're still going to get you out of America, because we can't have you here in America telling this story that we illegally deported you to El Salvador for the next 4 years while Trump is in office. But if you don't plead guilty, we're just going to send you to Uganda. Can someone just get this man out of office? He's ruining the country.
Let's talk about Abrego Garcia. I got a couple of questions. So this young man from Baltimore is on the path to being deported. I'm looking at CNN this morning. But I have one big question. Now, they said they're going to try to deport him to Uganda, but this man is from Salvador. I love a good conspiracy theory. But this right here, the math not mathing. Why would you send somebody from El Salvador to Uganda, an African nation, where they don't even speak the same language? Somebody help me understand. I'm looking for some comments, because I need some help in this. So if anybody has any insight as to why they would deport Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran, to Uganda, I need some help understanding.
Kilmar Garcia's story begins in El Salvador. Back in 2011, when he was just 16 years old, he fled to the United States. Like so many young men in his country, he was running from gang violence, the kind of violence that had taken over entire neighborhoods, where refusing to join or crossing the wrong people could mean death. He crossed the border without documents, but not out of choice. It was survival. For years, he lived in the US, building a life and trying to stay out of trouble. In 2019, something crucial happened. An immigration judge reviewed his case and determined that he was qualified for withholding of removal. The status meant the government legally recognized that it would be too dangerous to send him back to El Salvador. He could live and work in the US lawfully, and he did just that. He settled in Maryland, married, and had children, all of whom are American citizens. He followed the system, complied with his yearly ICE check-ins, and did what the government asked of him. And yet, on March 15th of 2025, everything collapsed. Without warning, Kilmar was deported. The Trump administration later brushed it off as administrative error, but this so-called mistake destroyed his life overnight. Instead of returning to his family after a routine check-in, Kilmar was shackled, put on a plane, and sent back to El Salvador. But this wasn't just a deportation. It was something far darker. Under a secretive deal between the US and El Salvador, deportees were being sent directly to the infamous terrorism confinement center known as SECOT. This mega prison, designed to hold alleged gang members, was notorious for locking people up without trial, subjecting them to overcrowding and abuse. Hundreds of deportees were being funneled there as part of an agreement where El Salvador was essentially being paid to warehouse US deportees. Kilmar, a man with no criminal record in either country, was thrown into that prison. The administration defended the deportation by claiming Kilmar was a member of MS-13, one of the most dangerous gangs in the world. But here's the catch. The allegation came from a single bail proceeding years earlier, in 2019. It was never proven in court, never backed by a conviction. Kilmar has always denied it, yet that flimsy determination was used to justify tearing him from his family and throwing him into one of the harshest prisons on earth. His wife, desperate to get him back, filed suit in Maryland. The case quickly grew into a national scandal. In April of 2025, the Supreme Court weighed in. In a rare unanimous decision, the justices said the government must facilitate his return. But here's where the word games began. The administration interpreted facilitate to mean they didn't actually have to secure his release from El Salvador. Instead, they argued it meant if El Salvador let him go, they'd provide a plane to fly him back. It was a cynical, legalistic dodge, and it kept Kilmar stuck behind bars. The legal battle dragged on, with his wife's lawyers pushing for expedited discovery to expose what really happened. The government stonewalled, claiming state secrets were involved. Think about that. A man who had legal protection in the US, a man raising American children, was sent to a foreign prison, and the government's excuse for withholding evidence was state secrets. Finally, on June 6, 2025, Kilmar was brought back to the US, but instead of being reunited with his family, he was indicted in Tennessee on charges of conspiracy to transport undocumented immigrants for profit. Just days later, a judge ruled he could be released pending trial, but his lawyers feared he'd simply be deported again. So instead, he remained in prison for his own protection. By July 23rd, both federal courts in Maryland and Tennessee ordered his release and barred another immediate deportation. On August 22nd, he walked free and returned home to Maryland, at least for the moment. But the nightmare wasn't over. ICE made it clear they still intended to detain him and even suggested deporting him to a third country. Just 3 days later, ICE detained him again during a court-mandated check-in in Baltimore. This constant cycle of release and redetention paints a chilling picture of how fragile immigrant protection really are in the US. Here is a man who had legal status protecting him from deportation, who had been living peacefully in America for over a decade, who had a wife and kids who depended on him, and still, the system found a way to destroy his stability. Africans themselves are questioning America's cruelty and incompetence, wondering if this is justice or just political theater. Many say it's disrespectful, even humiliating, for their countries to be used as a dumping ground for America's broken immigration system.
At this point, I don't know who is responsible, but His Excellency the President of Uganda, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Does Uganda have a bilateral agreement on deportation with the US? Because why are they deporting Kilmar García to Uganda? You're allowing a criminal who has been under maximum security, charged with serious federal crimes, which include human trafficking and smuggling. You're allowing him into the country with ease.
What is going on in Africa, guys? What is going on in Africa? What do these people see in Africa all the times? And sometimes when it gets us upset, they start coming for us. They start looking for ways to flag our videos, to block us and all of that. A couple of months back, we all got news that the United States deported some of the violent criminals, as they call it, to some of our African countries. They deported some to Eswatini. They also deported some of them to South Sudan. And recently, they are in conversation. They are having negotiations with Rwanda and Uganda to deport some of these violent criminals to these two other countries. And I'm very sure that they are also in communication and negotiation with other African countries to deport some. Nigeria had openly said through their Minister of Foreign Affairs that Nigeria is already dealing with a lot and will not be able to receive more people. So the question is, why is it that whenever they want to dump their stuffs or they want to dump anything, and now that it has to do with these violent criminals, the best place that they think they should deport these people to is Africa? Why is it always Africa? Like I said before, if we start getting angry now, they will start coming for our videos, they will start flagging us and all of that. But why? Why is it that they always think that all the bad things should always go to Africa? When they want to carry out their test, when they need human beings to use like guinea pigs to carry out their test, their trial processes, it's Africa. When they are violent criminals, where to deport them? Africa. Why is it always Africa? What did we really do? And again, why will some of our presidents be accepting things like this? Do you guys think that there are some financial benefits that some of these presidents would get? And if they get the financial benefits, what will they do with the money? Again, why would they always accept certain things, trials, use us as guinea pigs, violent criminals, whatever is not good, they want to dump it on African soil? Why? That is the question.
Kilmar's story raises bigger questions too. What does it mean when the government can ignore its own court rulings and deport someone labeled as threat without trial? What does it mean when the Supreme Court says facilitate his return and the government twists that language until it becomes meaningless? And what does it mean for the countless other immigrants who don't have the same visibility, who may be deported quietly under the radar without even making headlines? Today, Kilmar's future remains uncertain. Yes, he has been released at times. Yes, he has courts fighting on his side, but with ICE still pushing to deport him again, possibly to a third country, the fight isn't over. His family lives in fear that any day could bring another detention, another flight, and another nightmare. And for ordinary people watching this unfold, the lesson is clear. If the system could do this to someone like Kilmar, a man with legal protection, a family, and no criminal record, it could happen to anyone. This story isn't just about immigration. It's about accountability, human rights, and whether or not America will uphold its own laws. Because if courts can be ignored and families can be shattered with the excuse of errors, then the American dream becomes nothing more than a fragile illusion.
A federal judge blocked the deportation of, guess who? Kilmar García. Yep, the judge said nope, and not only did they say nope, but they also ordered that he remain on the continental U.S. until we figure all this out, until his due process is gone through. So no more snatch and grab and deport and then figure it out. It's the way it's supposed to be, where you figure it out and then deport if it's deemed necessary. Unbelievable how hard this is to get right.
So what do you all think? If a Salvadoran man can be deported to Uganda, what does that say about the immigration system? Should politics ever decide the fate of someone's life? And how many more Kilmars will it take before people realize that MAGA deportation agenda isn't about safety, it's about power? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it from me. I also have a video on MAGA crashing out on Cracker Barrel changing its logo. And if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, the Joy Report out.